Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to the final part of my preview and predictions for the 2018 Formula One season. Now, earlier this week, I focused on the backmarker battle and that tight midfield, but today it is all about the fight for the title between Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull. I am going to start with Red Bull, and I'm also going to be completely honest, I didn't hold out much hope for them coming into 2018. I felt like, although last year's car was really strong, the Renault engine was pretty underpowered and very unreliable, and I didn't see Renault themselves making the jump forward that they've shown that they have in pre-season testing. So to be honest, I kind of fully expected Red Bull to fall into that no man's land third place that they've been for a while now. You know, not really under threat from fourth place, but just not close enough to the top two. However, there is a lot of talk that following pre-season testing, they could actually be the second fastest on the grid. And Lewis Hamilton himself has said, if Red Bull bring good updates to Australia and they make the step forward that Mercedes are expecting them to make, they could actually be the team to beat. Now, to be honest, I think that's a little bit generous, but they're definitely in the mix this year. And with the two drivers they've got, they are going to take points off Ferrari and Mercedes left, right and centre. So even if they don't challenge for the title, they will have a say in it. As is the case with all of the top three, I don't think any of them have fully shown their hand just yet. I don't think there was a lot of sandbagging going on in the midfield, but there certainly has been between the top three. I've also found it quite interesting how much Red Bull have been playing down their chances this year. They always do it, but this winter they've almost felt forced, like they know they've got something special that is much better than last year and that they can challenge, but they're very much, oh no, we're not really there yet, we're a long way off, Mercedes are going to be well clear. I'm not convinced now, I'm really not. I have said in live streams over the winter that I expected Red Bull to probably take second in the Constructors' Championship, but that was less down to the car and more down to their driver lineup, which you could argue is the best on the grid. You've got two very quick, consistent and competitive drivers with big points to prove who will push each other just that little bit more than, say, with respect, Kimi Raikkonen would push Vettel or Bottas might push Hamilton. And that for me is enough to see Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo picking off Bottas, picking off Raikkonen in these races. And those extra points they're gaining on top of whatever extra performance they've got should see them in good stead to finish second. I'd be very surprised if they didn't. With regard to the drivers, I think Max Verstappen will just edge it this year. It will be even closer than it's ever been between the two of them. But I feel like Max Verstappen has no distraction away from the racetrack, whereas Daniel Ricciardo, of course, has got all this contract talk that's going to be swirling around him. And as we've seen throughout Formula One history, that can have an impact on how they perform on track. I don't think it will be a huge impact, but it wouldn't need to be to make the difference between them. That is how close they are. Do I see Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo mounting a Drivers' Championship challenge? Unfortunately, and in all honesty, no. I just don't see it happening. I mean, they're both clearly good enough, and I would love to see them both take the fight to Mercedes and Ferrari and really upset that top two. I think it's a real tall order. One thing I will say, though, is that they will not be a million miles away. On to Ferrari then, and there has been a lot of talk that the Scuderia are actually in trouble and could well be the third fastest as we head to Australia. I'm not convinced by that at all. Ferrari are notorious for sandbagging during pre-season testing. We saw it in 2017, and the lap times they set on the hypersoft tyres during testing shows there is a very good baseline speed, if you like, in that car. They are quick. They have got their issues, there's no doubt about that. The car apparently is very thirsty, and that will, of course, inevitably cause them problems over the course of 2018. I'm going to put my neck on the line and say it now, they're not a second off Mercedes. That's been reported a lot just lately that Mercedes are gone and a second clear and made these massive improvements. I don't believe Ferrari are a second off the pace. Yes, they're slower than Mercedes on the long runs. That was quite evident through testing, but it's not a second. Now, although they're not the third fastest car, I do think they will end up third in the Constructors' Championship, and that basically comes down to Kimi Raikkonen. This is not a criticism of Kimi at all. It's just the way Ferrari tend to operate. They will have a clear number one, and that will be Sebastian Vettel. It's already widely reported that Kimi Raikkonen is retiring at the end of 2018, so this is, of course, therefore his last year with Ferrari. He will be utilised as the number two driver to help Vettel potentially win the Drivers' World Championship at the end of the year. The problem with that is, as a number two driver, you're usually compromised when it comes to strategy and the way teams plan their races as a whole. And as I've already said, when you've got a Max Verstappen and a Daniel Ricciardo partnership there ready to just pick you off and grab those points from you or get that last step on the podium, that will cost Ferrari come the end of the season. But I guess the big question really is, can Sebastian Vettel compete for that Drivers' World Championship and take the fight to Lewis Hamilton? The obvious answer is Well, yeah, of course he can. But I think the first part of the season is going to come down to damage limitation for Ferrari. I don't think Mercedes are a second clear. I've already said that. But they do have the advantage at this stage. So for me, it's going to come down to the development race. Now, if Vettel can arrive at Australia and pick up those podiums and stay close to Mercedes in terms of points, and Ferrari can develop that car and solve any issues they've got, close that gap right up to Mercedes, by the time we reach, say, Canada, for example, the tables could just start to turn. I think it's fair to say I've been fairly adamant throughout the winter that I feel Sebastian Vettel will win the championship in 2018. I think sticking to that prediction is reliant on the assumption that Ferrari have been sandbagging through pre-season as much as I think they have, and on how quickly they can solve any problems they've got with that car. He has got a point to prove after last year, I don't doubt that for a second. You know what happened in Baku, some question marks over Singapore, for example. He faced a lot of criticism, and I think he'll want to bounce back in 2018 and prove those critics wrong. But no matter how good a driver you are, you still need the car to deliver and to perform. Finally then, on to Mercedes, and I do think they go into the season as the clear favourites right now. They're not miles clear, but they're definitely clear of Red Bull and Ferrari. There's no doubt in that. You can see it on the long run pace. And the fact they didn't even feel the need to take any hypersoft tyres to Barcelona, or do any low fuel running at all, that just shows how confident they are in that car. Now, they are talking about a very close battle between the top three. So while everybody else is talking about Mercedes being really far up the road and they're going to dominate the season, the team themselves and those around them think it's going to be very close. And of course, they've got all the information, they've got all the data, they've got deltas and all sorts, stuff that we just don't see. Of course, that could all be mind games and them just playing down their chances. They might rock up at Australia and set a lap time that's a second half quicker than anybody else. I don't think they will, but teams are always playing down their chances. It's just part of Formula One. It's part of those mind games. They will win the Constructors' Championship. I think that's one of the easiest predictions to make at this point. I fully expect Valtteri Bottas to take a big step forward this year. You know, there was some criticism of him for 2017, but for me, he was drafted in very late in 2017. You know, Nico Rosberg had retired. They waited till January to make the announcement. He's had a full season with the team now, a full pre-season as well, some great testing done for him, some great laps on the board. And we saw last year that he's capable of winning races and picking up those podiums. And when you throw into what I think we can safely say will be a title bid from Lewis Hamilton, those two together should easily secure that Constructors' Championship for Mercedes, probably 600 plus points again. I also have to say, Lewis Hamilton has really surprised me in pre-season, especially with some of the things he's been saying. He just seems so driven and determined this season, possibly more so than 2017. And I didn't expect that from him this year. I really didn't. I honestly thought coming into the season that he would have one eye on his future. And, you know, I don't think he was ever going to retire at the end of 2018. I don't think that was in his mind. I still think that'll be 2020. But there was a little bit of me that thought that he might have been thinking, you know, I've had a great few years with Mercedes. I've got a couple of years left in the sport, maybe 3 years. Where could I go after this? Where could I finish my career? But there's just not a bit of it from him. He looks committed to the team. He looks ready to go. And I cannot wait for the fight between him and Sebastian Vettel this year. It will be even closer than last year come the end of the season. I think we will get a title decider in Abu Dhabi. God knows we need it. And when you throw into that mix two finished drivers, both with a point to prove this year, and the two Red Bull boys determined to get in the mix for that championship fight, we could be in for one hell of a season this year. So just to wrap it up then, I think Mercedes will comfortably win the Constructors' Championship from Red Bull and Ferrari, but that will be very, very close between those two. But as for the Drivers' Championship, am I still backing Vettel for the title as I have done all winter? Well, I kind of have to really, don't I? But he will have to overcome Mercedes and Hamilton in a Ferrari car that is arguably weaker than its rivals at present. It is all going to be about the development race over the course of 2018. They are, of course, just my thoughts and opinions, but what is your top 3 finishing order for the Constructors' Championship? And who do you think will be crowned the 2018 Formula One World Champion? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I will be back tomorrow night at 6 PM UK time for our usual Sunday stream, but in the meantime, you can follow me on social media. Links to all of those are in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.